Live from the Clarity from Chaos studios, heard worldwide, it's Dave Campbell. On every episode, Dave and his guests explore, discuss, and work on solutions to some of life's biggest challenges. So, if you're ready, be prepared to be enlightened, amused, and even shocked by what you hear. And now, the real, the authentic, the one and only Dave Campbell.
Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Dave Campbell, and you are listening to Clarity from Chaos. If you're a first-time listener to the show and absolutely like what you hear, take a moment and go to my website on Substack. The site address is clarityfromchaos.substack.com. There you can listen to the archive shows, which I have quite a few, see the upcoming guests for the next month, and if you'd like, you could support the show by clicking the subscription button. Now, look around and tell me what you see. For me, I am seeing an abundance of evil and very little good happening in this country. A meteoric rise of the DSA, supported by social and corporate media in this country, is going on. Founded in 1982, they flatlined until 2016 when they signed on with Vermont's Senator Bernie Sanders to support his presidential bid. Now there are over 90,000 members and growing, and helped get elected several socialist House members and the mayor of the most powerful city on the planet. This Marxist ideology has been successful in bringing a rise to racism, limiting our language, the slow destruction of the family, and the dismantling of the very Judeo-Christian beliefs that founded this great country. It's time to gather our forces and bring spirituality back to the forefront of our collective thinking. We need the church back in our lives along with the living Bible. We need to do a much better job of electing our representatives and holding them accountable once we elect them. So before we move on, I'd like to share a scripture, if you don't mind. This is from Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Not everyone sharpens, do some only drain you. That's why God removes the wrong ones and replaces them with the right ones. He knows what you can't see, he hears what you don't hear, and he will connect you to the voices that will lift you higher. We are incredibly pleased to welcome to Clarity the CEO of one of America's leading insurance firms, Mr. Tony Holland. Tony was recently inducted into the West Point Association of Graduates Lifetime Giving Society, and this reflects Tony's dedication of faith, perseverance, and leadership, which underscores his mission to give back to the community. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you, David Campbell. So honored and blessed to be here, Dave. I'm on Clarity from Chaos podcast. What a blessing. And I'm going to tell you something. You're on the first podcast that I've ever been on with that ever quoted a scripture. So I want to appreciate that, brother. Appreciate that. And amen to that. Amen.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, to me, Tony, and before we get into this, to me, it's boiled down now to, it's a binary choice. It's good versus evil. It's not Republican.
Amen.
It's not Democrat. It's not the media. It's not any of that stuff. It's us spiritually need to awaken. We need to bring back where we started. And I know people think that that's silly, that that's a baseline, but if you look at our country, it was founded on a Judeo-Christian ethic. And all of our laws and everything are rooted back to the Bible.
Amen.
The basis of almost everything that we consider good and proper in this country is related back. And I'm not going to be a Bible thumper or anything like that, but we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We need to stop allowing this social media in this country to drive a narrative that's just destructive. That's all I can say it is. It's just destructive.
I call it a spiritual malady. Our country is a sick society. We're sick.
Yeah.
And evil has taken over. To what used to be when I was a kid in the 70s, what was good is now evil in people's mind. And what is evil is now good.
Yeah.
It's flipped.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy what's going on in the school system, what's going on in government, what's going on in community. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And they've destroyed or have worked really hard at destroying the fabric of the family, and
Yes.
the consequences of that are young men growing up without fathers.
Yes.
There's just a litany of things. The feminine rise of feminine toxicity, and then they claim male toxicity,
Right.
and
Right.
it's just crazy.
Yes.
Instead of boiling it back to where we need to be, just
Our foundation.
a foundation, and it's biologically very simple.
Right.
And I have a friend of mine that's a pediatrician and used to belong to the National Board of Pediatrics. He had to remove himself from the board because they could not come to a conclusion that at birth you had a female or you had a male.
Wow.
And they sat there and tried to juggle that into some
Wow.
kind of woke terminology.
Right.
And it's crazy. It's
Yes.
absolutely nuts that
Yes.
you can't sit there and say, that's my daughter, that's my son. Now, there's a lot of other things that go along with all of that. And
Right.
I can empathize with it, very much like empathizing with the immigration issue and everything else. But biologically, it's this or it's this.
Right.
And it's that simple.
Right.
And why they're trying to make it not that simple is pretty evil, if you
Right.
ask me. Anyway.
Yeah, we're in a spiritual war
Right.
when it comes down to, and we are, like I said before, we're a sick society, and we have to get back to our foundation in that regards. But it is more spiritual than anything. And I think people, the true Christians and the people of faith, let's put it that way, because we were founded as a Judeo-Christian society, we need to start stepping up. We've
Right.
kind of been in the shadows for too long. We need to start stepping up, especially starting with our pastors. I didn't mean to go in this direction, but some of these mega
No.
churches and these pastors, they need to start stepping up and speaking the truth so they can guide their flock in the right direction. We need strong Christian leadership, especially now in our society.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mention that because I think all pastors, and I think this has been part of the Marx, and I'm going way afield here, but this has been all part of the Marxist ideology.
Yes.
Is to change the narrative. And even back when LBJ got the IRS codes changed to where
Mhm.
you couldn't speak politics or anything from the pulpit.
Right.
Up until that point, that's what churches did. A lot of the gatherings and the public and political stuff was all discussed at church.
Yes.
It was discussed from the pulpit,
Yes.
and they had to measure up to the pulpit as part of getting into office. They needed to reconcile with their constituents.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, being a non-taxable institution became more important
Right.
than
And speaking the truth.
speaking the truth.
Yes.
And we just recently went through the whole COVID thing, which just put that whole concept on steroids, because they literally, for the most part, now there were some churches that had the courage to stay open, but some of those pastors were threatened with jail,
Right.
all kinds of stuff, and
Right.
and it's
Some went to jail.
and some
certain
did go
com-
to jail
Yeah,
over
yeah.
it. And
Right.
so anyway, I do believe, and I agree with you completely, that the church needs to step up, and we as church going members
Need to step
need
up.
to start moving them that direction.
Yes.
And
Amen.
and what I find funny is every time I bring it up, they get real hesitant about doing it,
Mhm.
real hesitant, and they fall back on certain areas of the Bible and everything. But I think some of the best ministers I've ever heard, Tony, were able to entwine the day's events, the week's events, and
Mhm.
everything else with the church to drive the truth and to show the truth to what's
Yes.
going on and make it relate.
Yes.
And,
Agree.
and they just don't, they're afraid. And I can understand their fear. I truly can. I can understand their fear,
Right.
because if you look at some of the things that have happened, who knows what kind of a wacko is walking around out there that's gonna take something into their own hands. But anyway, let's get back to some of my questions.
Great.
Supporting West Point, the way you're supporting the connection. How did you get to that connection?
Well, for many years, supported them with the athletic program. My son was an upcoming recruit for West Point Military Academy. So since the 9th grade, we were going up to the football camps. And my son got excited. I think it was between the 7th and 8th grade. He went to the commencement and he was just blown away. He said, "Dad, I want to go to school there." I'm like, "You sure? You understand what this is going to take?" And he says, "That's where I want to go."
Yeah.
So he was a pretty good football player. He had the size and, and the height.
Yeah.
He was a pretty good athlete. So we went up every summer and spent time there. He unfortunately didn't get in his first time. He actually got hurt playing lacrosse. So he was a multi-sport athlete, played lacrosse, was very good at lacrosse, was in the state championship team. And that's where he broke his hand and didn't know it. He actually wrestled for part of the season with a broken hand and didn't know it. Played football for a broken hand. And then come to find out when he's doing his final exam for West Point, they had to decline him. He had a broken hand. And so you got to start all over. And so he has to wait a year. So we decided to go to VMI. They took him. They said, as long as you get the surgery and you're healed, we'll let you in. So he got in VMI. So he went through the rat line, which is pretty impressive in itself that he completed that. And that's when COVID, by the way, set in. And he was, again, applied a second time and got into West Point. So we've been funding the West Point athletic program. It's called the A Club. And we were honored with that special award recently in terms of our giving to the West Point Academy.
Interesting. So
we're very honored to do it. Okay. We didn't do it for the award. I didn't care about an award. I didn't care about all the other perks. I just wanted to make a difference. But I'm going to tell you, I was very frustrated to learn that our West Point cadets didn't have all the equipment and support that they needed. You'd be shocked what these kids have to live off of. And you're seeing these top ranked schools like Oklahoma and Ohio and Michigan throwing money around. These kids at West Point, to me, they're the highest caliber students out there, highest caliber individuals in our society. They get the bare minimum. They don't have enough money to take care of equipment and what they needed. So that was my passion to give back. And by the way, I've been coaching for 13 years. I played 16 years of football. So I have a big passion for football because of my upbringing, what it did for me, not having a father figure in the household. I didn't know my father until I was 46. That's a whole nother story. We could do another podcast on that one alone.
Okay.
But my commitment to the young men and women in our society, which motivated my wife and I to contribute to the level to help support the athletic program.
Wow. It's funny you mentioned about the, it's like the weight rooms and all the different things, the equipment that goes with it that are Ohio State or in Oklahoma or Southern Cal or you just see these complexes, Georgia, for example. You would think that West Point would be on par with all of that. And, but then in retrospect, if I take a step back, I can see where they would get the short end of the stick.
Sure. I mean, there's no NIL money at West Point. There's none of that. They're not allowed to do that. They don't have a lot of the luxuries that the other sports have. So that's why, it impresses me how well these young men and women do with working with so less. Now, don't get me wrong. We have a great facility. The stadium's amazing. We have great equipment, but I just wanted to commit to a certain level to give them the very best possible out there. We have a lot of other great donors that are part of the Lifetime Giving Society.
Yeah, but I would agree with you that if you're looking at individuals that have integrity and all the different attributes that qualify, I guess, for being exceptional, West Point would be that place because
top 5% in our society.
Yeah,
only
exactly.
The top 5%
it wouldn't be the Harvard, it wouldn't be the Yales, but it would be the three academies. It would be the Air Force, the Navy and West Point. So
by the way, Dave, we got a big game this week, Army Navy this Saturday.
That's exactly
I'll be there.
I
will be there.
Exactly right.
And I'm taking the whole family, so we're honored to be there to support the Black Knights.
Yep.
Go Army.
It's amazing because I did a stint in upstate New York many years ago as a consultant, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. If you've never been up there in the fall when the
Right.
leaves change,
Oh, it's beautiful.
going up the Hudson
Yeah, it's
it's
beautiful.
just gorgeous. Um,
I,
Go ahead.
no, I think that was one of the things my son fell in love with, the drive up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's
And I'm-
moving. It's the quiet, the peace,
yeah.
the view, the leaves. It's incredible.
I
It's
was trying to
incredible.
think of the remember the golf course that I played that was right there on the banks of the Hudson. You know,
Yeah.
it was right near Peekskill somewhere in there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going back in time now. But I am curious to West Point unfortunately went through the last 4 years of all of this woke culture that we
Oh,
started
God.
out the show talking about.
Mhm.
And I wanted your feelings now that Hegseth has kind of slapped them back into reality, if you will.
Yes.
What your feeling is, because I know they tried to keep up with all of this nonsense for the last 4 years, but we're fortunately they have a new boss now. So
A real boss. No, not a new one, a real boss.
a real boss, yeah.
A real boss. And I'm going to tell you, it's unbelievable.
I
Because
bet.
my son went through that transition, if you want to call it that, and morale was down.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they didn't
bet.
speak about it because they had to honor their code, but I can see the vibe was different from those early years when my son was, you know, during Trump's first administration to the last 4 years during the Biden. There was a difference. There was a definite difference in the attitude.
Yeah.
Now it's totally different. It's back the way it was. The enthusiasm's high. Matter of fact, applications are higher than ever. People are, going into the military more than ever. It's been a breath of fresh air to have this new administration lead like true leadership's supposed to lead.
Yeah. It to me, I'm too old, but I'd almost go back in again if with the leadership. But
Yeah.
the unfortunate part though, Tony, is this new leadership is only going to last for so long, and what instead of this is the way it should be
Right.
forever,
Right.
it's going to change. It's going to change
Yeah.
with the times and stuff like that. But it is refreshing to see somebody in there that's actually doing things the way that we feel like should be done.
It's just common sense leadership.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science, but you have certain people in our society, especially political leaders. You talked about it earlier with that Marxist viewpoint that
Right.
want to change America, what America stands for. And it's
Right.
unfortunate. It's a battle. Like I said, it's not a physical battle. It's a spiritual battle we're going
Right.
through.
And it's a real battle. People can poo-poo it if they want, but it doesn't take a genius for you to look around and see the evil that's starting to seep in around the edges
Yes.
and starting to take over areas that you never thought would happen. So
Well, I can
and-
remember when they pulled God out of the schools,
Yeah.
reading the Bible out of the schools. That was
Yeah.
back in the 70s. So I can remember those good old days when
right.
God was present in the school system. Now you can't even mention Jesus Christ, but you can mention anybody else but Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, it's I was just this morning I was listening to Red Skeleton's Pledge of Allegiance speech that he gave back. Oh my goodness, it was in the sixth. Well, it was even earlier than that because Alaska and Hawaii hadn't even become states. So it was
Right.
So,
Right.
it was back a while ago, and it was pretty amazing because he put that guy's speech right up there with the Sermon on the Mount.
Right.
And
Wow.
yeah, so anyway, since you are tied and part of the being a subject matter expert around the insurance industry and have counseled and mentored many, many people in that business, let's talk about the ACA. Because it was at the forefront with the government shutdown because they were trying to, not only extend the COVID money, but the ACA stuff, the subsidies that were ongoing and everything else. and that didn't happen. But I think the public, Tony, doesn't really understand the nuances, the stuff
Right.
around why going to the doctor or getting prescriptions other short than just the cost and the logistics
Right.
of
Right.
pharmaceuticals, why it's so costly.
Right. Well, to start with, those subsidies, which were due to the American Rescue Act of 2021 and the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, made premiums artificially affordable. Those subsidies were only supposed to be for a short period of time. Well, they expire at the end of this month. And that's why you're seeing the challenge we were having with part of the whole government shutdown. One party, the Democrats, wanted to continue those subsidies, that $35 billion
Right.
to continue. The Republicans said no, because they found out there was a lot due to the whole Doge aspect that the fraud, waste, and abuse. There's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse in those subsidies.
Yep.
They were finding out a lot of those subsidies weren't going to those that needed it, the insured. You had people that were on the plans, 20-somethings, that didn't use the plan, but were getting a subsidy to insurance carrier. Now, I know the insurance carriers, they have to make money. They do.
Oh, yeah.
But part of the challenge we're having in healthcare, and it's not just with the ACA, it's with Medicare, it's with Medicaid, it's with group plans. You have the challenge that Doge discovered, the fraud. There's a lot of fraud, there's a lot of waste, and there's a lot of abuse. You see it from the insurance carriers, you see it from the hospital networks, you see it from the provider groups, and you see it also from individuals gaming the system. So that's part of the challenge why healthcare costs are so high. And, I hope we can dive into this, but, some people may not want me to share this, but I'm going to share it. We can't have 10 million plus people here illegally using our healthcare system. So I can see the point of the carriers and the hospitals and the providers, like, we got to make up this loss somewhere, because every time an illegal immigrant gets sick, they don't go to a medical professional or provider. They don't go to a doc. They go to the emergency room, which is in many cases 10 to 15 times more expensive, and they just would have went to a provider. So all of that plays an effect of why it's so expensive. And that's why you're going to see come January, without the subsidies, there's going to be about a 50 to 75% increase in people's premiums. And that's what's creating hysteria around this. So we have to have serious reform to make this program work.
Yeah. And I would say it's not the government that needs to be gathered in a room to come up with the solution set. It needs to be, like yourself, industry experts that have the thought and the wishes of the country and of the consumer in the forefront of their mind when they're putting these things together, because the people in government, they don't have a bloody ass clue about the insurance, about healthcare, or anything else, because
about business,
running a business. Yeah, number one, they don't have to eat their own dog food because they have their own plan, right?
Yeah, they have a plan that none of us get to have. They have a very smart and a very nice pension program, by the way.
Exactly. So
and other incentives that they make money they're not supposed to make, that we all know about, the Nancy Pelosi, how she got wealthy, and many others in government got wealthy. Right. So they got a lot of perks that the regular people like us don't have.
Right. I mean, but that would be number one. If they had to eat their own dog food, then a lot of this stuff would not happen.
Right.
There's been floated an idea about, the health savings accounts.
Yes.
Which to me makes a lot of sense. But then if the consumer is not aware of how to utilize an HSA, that may not work either. Because to me, you're going to have to develop some kind of a bulletproof plan that is almost a no-brainer, Tony, to the consuming public.
Yes. Yeah, I love healthcare savings accounts. They're great. It allows an individual $4,400 to invest, a family up to $8,750 to invest, and it has triple tax benefits. So they get to deduct it from their taxes. The investment grows tax free. And then if they don't use the benefits year over year, it rolls into the next year. So that's great for that 27, 28-year-old that uses it,
Right.
minimum amount of time or not at all. They can roll it over year and it can continue to grow. And if they don't use it by the time they're retirement, when they're going Medicare, or Medicare Advantage or Medicare program, they can actually roll that plan into their retirement program,
Okay.
tax free. It's a great plan. Great
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
So we're advising a lot of people that are young, take out maybe a bronze plan, which you get 60% of your healthcare coverage, and do the health, an HSA plan to take care of the rest. And if you use it, fine. It's tax deductible.
Right.
It's tax free. And if you don't use it, it rolls over to the next year. It's like an
Yeah.
investment program. So they're great. And there's other great programs. There's critical illness programs. There's hospital indemnity programs. There's short-term medical plans. There's catastrophic coverage. There's get this, one of the great plans I like is what's called direct to primary care coverage, where some provider networks have their own plan and you just pay directly to that doctor. That's how it was when I grew up. We didn't
Right.
have health insurance. You paid the doctor directly.
Yeah.
So those are great along with healthcare, healthcare savings programs. And also there's also healthcare reimbursement programs. You can check that out through your employer. Those are great opportunities for people to find alternative programs to ACA.
Yeah. Quite frankly, that's the way I do my dentist work is I just have a concierge plan with my dentist. And
That's great.
And, it comes with, X, Y, and Z, da, 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 da. And,
Right.
there is no hassle with anything else. It's a direct relationship between myself and the dentist.
Yes. And they love that. The providers love that because they don't have to deal with the insurance company denying claims.
the paperwork goes away. Yeah.
There's little to no paperwork.
Right.
It's a personal relationship you have with. You have somebody that's in some corporate office making decision what's covered and what's not. It's right there at the local office. You can negotiate right there on your own behalf.
Right.
So I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So that I get that almost begs the question then, Tony, is why isn't this stuff being publicized, communicated out there?
Well, I think a lot has to do how this whole ACA program started.
Yeah.
With the Obama administration. We were told certain things that were
Right.
supposed to happen, and it was pretty much I call it a bait and switch.
Yeah.
We were told one thing, but actually another thing happened, and I believe they knew that. That's my personal opinion.
Well,
You're going to be able to keep a doctor. You're going to get lower coverage. Everybody's going to be covered. It's going to be the best thing in the world. It didn't turn out that way. Matter of fact,
Right.
in some cases, healthcare is way more expensive than it was before Affordable Care Act came out.
Right.
So it's got going crazy. So that's my thought on it. I believe why this a lack of education. I would love to see your listeners. They need to tie into a qualified broker. I mean, you have a qualified physician, you have a qualified dentist, Dave, correct?
Yeah.
You have a qualified mechanic, you have a qualified electrician, you have a qualified, builder to build your home. They all have certification. You need to deal with a qualified broker, not an agent, a broker. An agent represents one company, a broker can represent them all. And make sure they have their state health licenses. Make sure you check them out. Make sure they have the federal certifications to do ACA, the FFM program. If they're doing Medicare, make sure they have AHIP certification, and make sure all of them must have their fraud, waste, and abuse certification. And you want to deal with a broker that at least has 3 to 5 years experience. I'm going to just tell you this, Dave, there's some challenges in the broker community and agent community as well. A lot of them are seasonal. You do not want to deal with a seasonal agent or a seasonal broker.
No.
You want someone that does this. Like, you wouldn't want a seasonal heart surgeon.
No.
You wouldn't want a seasonal brain surgeon, a seasonal dentist. You want
Right.
someone this is their professions. And in my company, we have thousands and thousands of qualified brokers all across the country that can satisfy that need.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, if they take a step back and this goes to all of their policy making, if they would just take a step back and enlist, like yourself, the SMEs out there to compile and put together a solution set, to me, that makes sense. Right. And
Right.
then communicate it out there
Right.
of in Georgia, in Maryland, you
Right.
have this list of people, contact them,
Right.
and you get on with it. And I think that would go a long way.
Right.
The other thing that I always have found amazing though, Tony, is the AMA and all these people that were such, and I want to use the word, I guess, scoundrels during COVID, because they literally followed the BS that was being, pumped up everybody's,
Right.
skirt. And there was only a few of them, and those few got chastised and run out of
Yes.
Dodge on a
Yeah.
rail. Right. So to me, like I said earlier about the pediatrician, to me, it's, I don't know why they're there.
Right.
I do not know why they're there. Because
Well,
to me, they're doing a disservice, and
well, that was part of the whole,
the
I
cost, the whole
guess.
cost thing, is
Yeah. Well, the whole manipulation of what was going on back then.
yeah,
If you question it, you were demonized. If you didn't get the shot, you lost your job. Everyone was
Yeah.
demonized for questioning the authority. And a lot of
Yeah.
it was just common sense. People were saying, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. This isn't right. But those that went against, what the government at the time wanted us to believe were shunned, were shut down, locked up, or lost their job.
yeah, yeah. It was an ugly time,
Yes,
ugly
it
time.
was.
And hopefully, I do think they overplayed their hand and screamed that the sky was falling a little too much, because I don't think people are completely jaded around it, Tony, but I think that they're pretty much they're not believing a whole lot of anything
Yeah.
anymore.
Now they're starting to question things a little bit more. Maybe what I believed before, I shouldn't have believed.
Yeah,
And I think that's where we got to get back to common sense thinking, common sense leadership. We got to get back to our foundation, our society, our Judeo-Christian values, and get
Yeah.
back to basics and ultimately do what's right for the whole. And that's what I believe. I was always raised, you help those that cannot help themselves, but those they can either pull themselves by their bootstraps like I did, work my tail off, with nothing, and make something of yourself.
yeah,
And we just have a society that, it's sad to see this, that are just gaming the system. And we got to get back to common sense. We got to get back to good, old-fashioned, hardworking American values that made this country great.
Yep, I agree. Which kind of leads me to my last question, and I know this is going to be a loaded one, but your thoughts around the midterms, because it scares the crap out of me. Because I know what's going to happen if we lose the House in the midterms. I just know what's going to happen. So what's your thought?
Well, I pray people don't have short-term memory and realize not that long ago where we were.
Yeah.
And thank God, this last election went the way it did.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of conservative Democrats out there, or moderate Democrats out there. They don't want to say that. They don't want to be shunned by the crowd. They would say, of course, the lefts, they're not going to say that. But we need to not have short-term memory and realize what we escaped last November. And November before last. But my thoughts on this, we have to have interest rates come down. We're going to have to do it. We got to get home buying back up. We got to get young people believing in the system again and in owning homes again. We got to get back to that. We got to also have lower interest rates so businesses can grow and thrive and offer more jobs. The cheaper that businesses can get money, the more they can invest back into the business, utilizing, loans from the bank at a cheaper rate, and ultimately grow their companies and offer more jobs. So I truly believe these next 2 quarters, Q1 of 2026 and Q1 and Q2 of 2026 are going to be huge for us to make that impact. So we're going to have a strong economy. We got to get rates down. We got to get home buying up. We got to get people's confidence up. And that's why Trump's going on his little tour about his affordability campaign. We got to show people we've done more than you think, but we're going to continue to do more. Stick with the system. Let's not disrupt it now. We're not even, we're just a full year into this. Can you imagine?
Right.
Can you imagine another year or two what it's going to look like?
Oh, I just based on Trump's persona, Tony, I think I'm just tickled to death. And I don't really even consider people when they talk about how they don't like him, because to me he's probably the most authentic president in my lifetime.
Yes.
And I've been following politics ever since Kennedy. And
Well, I think Reagan was pretty close.
Reagan was close. But
Yeah.
I think Trump, based on the fact that Trump came out of the business world,
Yes.
you know, Reagan came out of Hollywood, but then he went
Right.
into government in California,
Right.
and then came out.
Right.
Trump just went from building skyscrapers straight into the White House.
Right.
And it showed the first time, and I think the fiasco in 20 gave him enough pause and the time to plan what he was going to do for this
Right.
last 4 years. And I
Right.
think that's what we're seeing now,
Right.
because
Right.
I've never seen in my lifetime a cabinet that was put together in the best interest of this country like Trump put together a cabinet that we
Best
have
I've ever
now.
seen. Best
Yeah.
I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Say what you want, and I tell people that all the time. Say what you want. No man's perfect, okay?
Ah.
But he's done way more than any other president I've ever seen. And I grew up there in the 70s, you know,
Right.
and Carter, he was a good man, but he just had poor leadership skills.
Right.
But
Right.
and I went through Reagan. Reagan did, I think, an excellent job. Trump's at a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And think about all the stuff he went through.
Yeah.
I mean, they convicted him of false, crimes. They just tried to destroy his family, raided his home. I mean, it's the ultimate success story. No matter how hard they beat them down, he just
Yeah.
keeps coming back bigger and stronger and better. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable. Well, listen, sir, it's been an absolute pleasure talking
Pleasure was
with you.
mine. Pleasure was mine. my
Talking with
friend.
you. We've been talking to Mr. Tony Holland, and I hope you and your family have a great Christmas if I don't talk to you
Amen.
before then. And I know the audience got a great deal out of this conversation, even with my stumbling around of Meteoric.
You did a great job, Dave. That was, you turned it around.
You
did.
know,
You did a great job.
I sat there and meteoric, damn it, but that's the way things go.
Hey, that's okay. You're a human. You made
That's
it right.
the way
and it was
things
fun.
go.
Yeah,
But anyway,
exactly.
Tony, it's been an absolute pleasure, sir. And
Pleasure is mine.
I look forward to having another conversation in the
Absolutely. Anytime.
not too distant future, sir.
Anytime. God bless you.
God
Merry
bless
Christmas
you.
to you and your audience. God
Yeah.
bless. Thank
Take
you.
care, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to listen to more Clarity from Chaos shows on demand, go to clarityfromchaos.buzzsprout.com or send Dave an email at info@clarityfromchaos.com for information on previous shows. You can also listen to the show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Twitter, or Google Podcast. Until next time, please remember, it's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Be well, everyone.